Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good evening to all of you. I hope you all are fine. And yeah, let's start the class today's class. I would actively recall key information. So we were talking about the third teacher or the third author of this book. So this is L. So he's talking about himself. I would actively recall key information. I tested myself after each new section by working on test problems. When I didn't understand something from the book at first, I would look for videos on internet, being careful not to get distracted. If they didn't work, I would ask one of my students. They usually knew the answer, and I knew it was good for them to teach me. It was a win-win situation. I remember to interleave by switching topics. You will learn more about that soon. I looked ahead in chapters to get a sense of what was coming. I looked at old exams so I knew the kinds of things the teacher would ask. I made up zany images in my head to remember difficult material. For example, I imagined myself crying over a melting white Porsche car. This helped me to remember that the catalyst for melting aluminium is cryolite, which is a white powder. It worked for me, alright? So he's thinking like that. I had to make sacrifices to do all this in a year, which I had promised my student I would do. I have a busy job, so I spent school vacation and some weekends studying chemistry. My family thought I was crazy, but I enjoyed getting rid of my ignorance. And I loved having a method that worked. I could feel that I was making progress. When the exam came, I thought I would do okay, but I wasn't confident. I had done as much work as I could in 1 year, but most students worked it in for 5 years before taking the exam. I wished I had practiced even more. How strong were the trails on my mental pinball table? The exam was fair. Some of it was tough, but most of it allowed me to show what I could do. When I finished it, I felt like I had given it my best shot. I had to wait 8 weeks to find out my results. Like my students, I was nervous on result day. When I opened my envelope, I was really happy with it. I had passed with a good grade, and I was able to tell my students without feeling embarrassed. They shared my joy in having succeeded. I'm really glad I did it. It allowed me to have lots of great conversation with the students about learning, and I was able to share Barb and Terry's insights with them. It reminded me what it was like to be a student and to have to struggle with difficult materials. Teachers often forget this because they are experts in their subjects. They sometimes don't understand why kids find the things difficult. It's good to be reminded that beginners usually do find things tough. The best part was feeling like I was sharing an experience with my students. I understand their worlds better now, as well as understanding atoms, and I have learned some great lessons about how together we can become better learners. I think a lot of adults would benefit from doing something like this, especially those who work with young people or just spend time with them. Why don't you challenge one of your teachers to learn something new? Or your mom or your dad, offer to help them. That way you can have great conversation with them about how to be a good learner, and they will understand your world better too. Okay? Now, pause and recall. Get up and take a little break. Get a glass of water or a snack, or pretend you are an electron and orbit nearby table. As you move, see if you can recall the main ideas of this chapter. Check this box when you are done. So this idea is about whenever you study. After studying like 4 to 5 pages, you just have to pause and just go in the air, in the open air, in the park, or just go to have a tea, and then just recall what I have read in these 4 to 5 pages, right? It will help you learn very effectively. Okay, now you try. Take a break. Olmec and Willif found that taking diffuse breaks between his pomodoros helped him to learn. Take out a sheet of paper and make a list of favorite activities that work for you when you are taking your diffuse breaks. If you would like, ask a friend to do the same thing, then compare your list. Okay, summing it up. Now, this is the summary of the whole chapter we have read. It's possible to learn new subjects that you never thought you could learn. You can do this even when you are an adult. Learning about new subjects can empower you. Okay? Use tools like the Pomodoro and active recall, and be sure to exercise. You will learn more about that soon to boost your learning. Check the internet for the explanation if the first explanation doesn't make sense to you. Ask other people for help when you are stuck. Don't be afraid to go back to a beginner's level, even if you are older than other students. Okay? Picture walk done, a few end of chapter question tackled, and notebook ready for the next chapter. Yes, ready. Are you ready? Yes, let's dive into the chapter 6. Learning while you sleep. How to wake up smarter. Wouldn't you love a brain upgrade? A brain software update? Your brain links tightened? Guess what? You get this upgrade every night. Yes. Research scientist Gong Yang and the team she worked with made important discoveries about learning. Okay, so let's see what they found in their research. The power of sleep. Research scientist Gong Yang studies neurons. Gong is interested in making discoveries like Santiago Ramon Casual in chapter 4. She is particularly interested in how we learn. Gong wondered whether neurons change when we learn something new. If neurons do change when we learn, this might give us clues about how we can learn better. Gong found that neurons do change, and the big change happens after we learn something and then go to sleep. Using new techniques, Gong took a picture of a living neurons. Gong's picture below show a part of dendrites. You can see the dendrites spine that are going out of the dendrites. So these are the dendrites, right? So here, see, before learning and before sleep. Before learning and before sleep, these are the pictures of dendrites. And now, after learning and after sleep, so these are the dendrites, right? So, these two images show a neuron before learning and before sleep above and afterwards below. The arrows on the lower picture, the arrows here, here, and here, and here, in here, point out to new dendrites spines that grew during sleep. Notice that a few of the spines are missing. What happened to them? Hint. See the discussion on synaptic vacuum cleaners that lies a few pages ahead. Okay, during the day, while the learning was taking place, a few small bumps began to emerge on the dendrites, but the spine really grew during sleep. The arrows in the above picture point to the new dendrite spine Gong found the next morning. These dendritic spines form synapses links with the axons of other neurons. Wow, this means that brain links solidify when you are sleeping. A neuron can even link to another neuron through several synapses, making even stronger brain links. During sleep, the brain rehearses what it has learned during the day. We can see the electrical signals traveling again and again through the same sets of neurons. And it's as if while we are sleeping, the space aliens have a chance to repeatedly pass along some friendly, reassuring shocks. Or you can imagine that during the night, your little mental mouse have a chance to run along the neural pathway many more times. This nighttime practice during sleep is what seems to allow the dendrite spine to get bigger. When the dendrite spine is nice and wide, the synapse grows stronger. That is, it can send a more powerful signals. Your brain links get a tiny bit bigger and sturdier. Okay, so concentrating intently during the day to learn something new can spur new dendrite bumps to begin to form. So this is where active recall comes in. It helps create those first bumps. Then, that night while you are sleeping, the little bumps turn into dendritic spine. The new dendritic spine have synaptic links to new neurons. As we mentioned in the earlier chapter, the more of these links that you have, and the stronger the links are, the more powerful your sets of brain links are. This means that it becomes easier to think about what you are learning. It's like being able to drive your thoughts down a nice smooth road instead of a muddy alley filled with lots of potholes. Incidentally, just reading this page of the book is helping new dendritic spine to start to form. Your brain changes when you learn. Here is the strange thing, though. Dendritic spines are sort of like lie detectors. The new spines and their synapses only... Okay, just a second. Yes, here is the strange thing, though. Dendritic spines are sort of like lie detectors. The new spine and their synapses only begin the growing process if you are really focusing on the new information you want to learn. You can't kid them, right? Dendritic spines can tell whether you have been playing video games or texting your friend instead of studying. In fact, even if new dendritic spine and synapses form, they can easily fade away and disappear if you don't practice them. Use it or lose it. It's like synaptic janitor comes around and removes the dendritic spine because they are not being used. With the new imaging technology, we can watch dendritic spine disappear. Look closely at the image on the previous page and see if you can see a dendritic spine on the right that didn't make it through the night, right? If you find it, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, a synaptic sweep, sweeping away dendritic spine. See here. So that's why you can understand something your teachers tells you in class, but if you wait for a few days before reviewing the material, you may find you don't understand it at all. Okay, so you then have to focus all over again on the same material. You must restart the process of growing dendritic spine just as you did the first time. Space your practice and you will remember it longer. Now, you try. Check your synaptic links. Neurons aren't only in the brain, they are also in other parts of the body. You can actually see your neurons and synapses at work. Try this experiment. Sit on a bed and dangle your feet over the edge, then hit your knee gently just below the kneecap. Sit on a bed and dangle your feet over the edge, okay? Then hit your knee gently just below the kneecap. It won't work if you don't tap just the right place. Be careful not to hit too hard, but just enough to get your knee to jerk automatically. This is called a reflex. When you gently tap below the knee, it causes a muscle to pull above the knee. This muscle then sends a signal through a sensory neuron that travels to your spinal cord. There, the signal jumps across a synapse to a motor neurons that twitches your muscle. The strength of the synapse, that is the strength of the signal that crosses the gap between the neurons, controls how far your knee jerks. A strong set of synapses make your knee fly fast, but weak synapses won't move it much. This is what doctors are checking for when they tap your knee. Don't worry if you can't make your knee jerk. Some people just don't respond to the knee tap, and that is still perfectly all right. Okay, there are many different kinds of reflexes. If someone makes a loud noise in front of your face, you will blink. If you put your fingers in a baby's palm and press, the baby will grasp them. What is cool about many reflexes is that they protect your body. When you touch a hot stove, for example, your reflexes react quickly to prevent a burn. The information only needs to travel from the muscle to the spinal cord and back, without needing to travel all the way to the brain. Traveling to the brain takes time. When your hand is on a hot stove, you want to move it as quickly as possible and not wait to think. Okay, so this is spinal cord. So this is kneecap, right? Tapping pulls muscle. So you tap here like that, and kneecap, and this is interneuron here, motor neuron. This is motor neuron, right? So your doctor is checking the connection of your synapses when she gently tap below your knee. You can do this too, right here. Just tap here. Okay. Right, I think that's enough for today. Inshallah, we'll do it tomorrow. Yes, Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.